right now in the news cycle, we're hearing about 50 Cent and Ice Cube, and it really just outrages me because I'm like, I wish y'all were here during the primaries when we had these candidates who had robust, clear black agendas, but you were somewhere else making money. But what are your thoughts on some of these really popular, I guess, hip hop icons who are, you know, I don't know, they're just out there and it feels like they're doing Trump's work.
So I don't hold celebrities to any higher standard than I hold regular folks, because at the end of the day, they're regular folks. So there's some regular folks who are misguided, and there's some celebrities who are misguided. And so for me, the question is, I mean, listen, I know some friends who are in the corporate world who quietly voted for Donald Trump in 16 because they voted their pocket and they didn't want to give up any money. Um, but now my contention to anyone who votes for Donald Trump, celebrity, black, white, is I'm not sure how you can do that and me have respect for you. Because here's a man, and my entire career until now, I always refrained from talking about someone personally, even if I disagreed with them politically. I was the traditional journalist, didn't rock the boat left or right, just in my professional life, kept it as best I could down the middle. No longer. This man is an idiot. He's self absorbed. He is a social malcontent to a great degree. I'd even go as far as a bit sociopathic. And so he's in over his head, and he is a danger to this country, not just legislatively, but he's a danger to, our well-being, period. Whether it be violence and race wars in the streets, which another 4 years would not be something that is far-fetched. He's an embarrassment across the world. I speak to a number of people outside of this country who continue to ask what is going on. And so I've decided very publicly to rail against this man. As far as 50 Cent, and he made it very clear, I'm voting my pocket. And if you want to vote your pocket as an individual and put aside the vile things that this man has done and said, then to me that speaks a bit to your character. It's your prerogative, but it speaks to your character, in my opinion. With Ice Cube, as you know, I was on the show when we dropped the book earlier this year, Conversations in Black, and I talked about I talked about new narratives, and in a way, what Ice Cube is talking about is a new narrative. Let's not be beholden to the Democratic Party. I'm going to go with whomever I can deal with, who's going to give me what I need. I'm not against that thought, but I am against the thought of dealing with someone who is a profound liar, who turns his back on any and everyone. So you can't take his word as truth. And again, here's a man who will not denounce white supremacy, will do anything, who call peaceful protesters thugs, and has no sense of morality. So I don't want to dance with that partner. So while I agree in theory with what Ice Cube is saying, I do not agree that you can enter into that narrative with Donald Trump. And so that's the rub that I have with Ice Cube. And may I lastly say, I think we've got to understand that anyone, and I don't mean just celebrities, but it's hard to say that I'm entering into a contract for Black America when you don't speak for all of Black America. And that goes for Ice Cube or the NAACP or NAN or Black Lives Matter. Part of the problem is our voice has grown. We like to say we're not a monolith. We like to say that we've got different thoughts. In the 60s, while we never had one singular voice, we had a more collective voice and a fewer people who were speaking for a community. Now, whether they represented that community in its totality, we don't know. There were certainly divergent thought back then. But what I will say is, I think as a community, we've got to figure out a better way to blend some of these voices together and figure out how we put forth the ask that the majority of our community wants. And I'm not smart enough to figure out how that's done yet, but we're in need of that, I think.
I don't know when we're going to. I don't know what it. I don't know. I guess we just gotta. I think the first step for
It's
me.
difficult.
It's very difficult.
It's difficult.
Because when you say Black agenda, what does Black agenda mean? You know, there's so many various things, and I get confused. I always say it, Mr. Gordon. What do you do when you had candidates who had a robust Black agenda, but they didn't get a lot of support? So I sometimes think, Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's an interesting dynamic in Black America politically to me anyway. So you say you didn't like Joe Biden, but you complain that you had too many people on stage at first. You are elated and excited that Kamala Harris got the second seat, but when she had the opportunity to get the first seat, you didn't have the sheer excitement that you had when she ran for the first seat. So it's an interesting dynamic to see all of the nuances in Black America today. And so, I think at this point, we just have to bank on anybody but Trump, which I think is much of the vote. I don't think I know the fervor for Joe Biden is not there politically. I think most people think he's a nice guy. He's a genuine guy. He's made some mistakes in the past. Unlike many politicians, whether it's altruistic or not, he's owned up to those mistakes. He's taken them on, i.e. the crime bill. He's talked about that. He's quick to throw out that CBC members were on board at that point in time. But he does say, look, it was a mistake. The outcome didn't play out as we assumed. But I think people think him genuine. So at this point, I think most of it is anybody but Trump. And, we will see in a few short days.